You are now tuned in to Radio with Gibbs.
Ladies and gentlemen, all my people, welcome to Radio with Gibbs. It's your boy Mark Gibbs, Gibby Gibbs. But today, I am known as Sergeant Gibson because we've got a special edition of the radio show for you all listening out there. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the rest of my guests, or rather, I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hello there, Sergeant Piker, instructor down at Keesler. Really excited to talk about the topic we have to talk about today with Gibson here.
All right.
Hello, I'm Tech Sergeant Randall from Scott Air Force Base, and I'm a training instructor, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what you have to ask us and see what we have to say about what's going on in NCOA.
Nice.
Hey all, Sergeant Clooney, currently stationed at Bolin Air Force Base in Washington, D.C. as a cyber system operator. I'm really excited to hop on the podcast with Gibbs and give our feedback and thoughts about the virtual NCO Academy and how it's been so far.
All right, good to have you.
All right, and Tech Sergeant Purcell over at Keesler along with Sergeant Pikerd. I am currently an MTL at Keesler Air Force Base. All right, and I'm with the 335th Training Squadron currently.
All right, glad to have you here. For all of you all who don't know me, I am Sergeant Gibson. This is normally my radio or podcast show, Radio with Gibbs, and I am a flight engineer at Travis Air Force Base. That's what I do. And what we're basically doing is we're going to go through a little run through of what it's like doing NCOA for all the non-military that might happen to stumble upon this video. That's non-commissioned or commissioned officers academy. It's a course that we are required to go through when we make a certain rank. And we're basically doing this so that everyone who has to go through this after us has an idea of what to expect as long as it's happening in a virtual environment. So with that being said, let's get started. So everyone, y'all here, y'all showed up, you look excited, ready to go. Let's talk about your initial thoughts about this course and what it means to do this online.
All right, my initial reaction, I was like, yay, because I don't know, I kind of put off going to NCOA. I don't know, it's never a good time to go to NCOA. You're always working on stuff, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, you have to go. So I got deferred, got pushed back when Corona hit. So I was actually kind of excited because I figured it'd be a little bit easy, and I saw that it was shortened. So I was like, I was on leave, found out when I was on leave, tried to get in it just to, because I figured it'd be quick, easy, painless.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I got deferred as well. So, I had a little bit different of an opinion about not being able to go in person, but we can talk about that a little bit later. What about some of you other guys? What did y'all think about it?
I know for me, I was actually excited to do online class. The main reason for that is because I've been teaching online for the last 4 or 5 months due to this COVID. So to be able to see things from another perspective, that is my students' perspective, kind of shed light on some of the issues that they're having that I wouldn't have recognized just by teaching them.
Okay, that makes a whole bunch of sense. Any other thoughts on what it's like to do this online or your initial thoughts? All right. Well, for me, I just got done doing a virtual course online. That was an ATC course. So when I found out I had to do this online, I was already, I wasn't trying to do it. That was my first thing. I was actually going to see if I could maybe push it back to when we were in the States who doing it in person, because I was really looking forward to going to CDY. Who doesn't want to be somewhere else with people they haven't met and the opportunity to just be away and someone shaking their head? Why are you shaking your head right now? Why are you shaking your head? I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Well,
was
for
my
me,
thoughts as well. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no,
No?
Sergeant Clooney, you got it.
All right. So I was originally signed up for in residence earlier this year because I had sewn on, and they're like, "Hey, you're going. We got a slot open right up for you, going down to Mississippi." So okay, and like 2 weeks beforehand, it's like, "Nope, canceled because of COVID." Okay. So I guess I'll just wait till class is restored. Nope, you're going virtual. So we got a slot for you a month later. All right. So just kind of kept my options open. I definitely was looking forward to going because I love that environment down there. I'm actually a big fan of Keesler and the surrounding area, but just keeping an open mind with the virtual environment. And it's been a good experience so far for the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, it definitely has been a good experience. What were you getting ready to say there, Sergeant Perthel?
Well, I was just gonna say, well, I wasn't going far. It was gonna be actually the school is like right down the street from my squadron, so I wasn't going anywhere.
I mean, it's still TDY though, even if you're walking down the street.
I would still see all my airmen because they walk past NCOA building to go to class. So I would have saw everybody anyway.
Oh,
So it wouldn't have been, and then it would have like made me kind of, you start to, oh, look at, or I couldn't have been there. I would have been drifting back to and worrying about, hey, what are they doing instead of like only being focused on NCOA. So.
Yeah, that would be definitely awkward. You're trying to do an assignment or worried about an assignment. Now you got to stop and correct someone. Like
Every morning they walk
every
past.
morning.
So.
Yeah, I was one of those people. I was like, when I saw the email, I was like, so everyone else is about to do this virtually, and I'm just going to hold it off and wait until this is done. But Corona, being the gift that keeps on giving, seems to have no end in sight. So here we are. But it's not all bad. It's not bad at all, actually. But for anybody listening out there, if you are thinking about, or if you're getting ready to do NCOA, because it's not thinking about, right? Like, oh, I've decided to do a course that I want to improve myself. It's like, nah, you got to go. You're going, right? There's no choice in it. How does something like this compare to what we've all done? ALS, Airman Leadership School. What's the difference? Because we all did that in residence. We did that in person, whether it was at our base or we had to go to another base. So doing a very similar course in person, how does that compare to doing something like this online?
Well, it's a lot different for us interacting. It's really hard to not be able to get to know your classmate. On a personal level, I should say, because in ALS, in class, we have time outside of class to like get to know each other than, oh, let's work on this presentation and what do you got, what do you have to offer or whatever. So with this, it's real quick, you in and out. That's just how I look at it. It's not bad, but at the end of the day, you're not really getting to know the person.
Not at least in that traditional sense, though, right? Face to face.
I was going to say, I think I have a little bit different of a perspective than Randall. I think that there can be that loss of connection with individuals if you're not in a physical environment with them or sitting next to them. But I feel like at least with the people that I've had the pleasure of speaking with during NCOA, I feel like we've gotten lucky as a class because we've been able to kind of keep the gap between being in a virtual environment and being distant. We've been able to keep that gap pretty low compared to what we experience in a traditional schoolhouse.
That's very true. We have a really good class. We're very fortunate. I don't know how they pick the classes and how they put people together. I think they typically try to stay away from putting people in the same unit or at the same base in the same class. I know it's impossible to not do it, but we got a really good class. And I think one of the things that has helped is the willingness for people to try to get to know each other outside of just sitting on Zoom and saying, okay, bye. Like me and Sergeant Turku, he actually is at my base and I never met him. We've been at the base for a while and, we got together on one of the weekends, let our kids play together. You know, they had a little play date. They're about the same age, and just chilled out and talked about life and talked about things outside of class, and that helped. But when you don't have that opportunity, what's some of the things you all would suggest to help close that gap, like Sergeant Piker say? What would you do? Or what did you do?
What I was trying to do personally, just kind of leave yourself open, ask the questions like, "Hey, what do you do in the Air Force?" Or, "Hey, what is it that you like to do for fun or as a hobby? Do you have family?" Things like that. Just asking questions and leaving things open that will help make that connection, make you feel more connected to the individual you're talking to. At least from my perspective, uh, I feel like that helps a lot.
Okay. What are some of the other perspectives we got on that? That's all very true.
I think that
I think that
oh, go ahead.
we like mirrored each other. No, I think the group me helps a lot too. See, we're finishing each other's sentences, so Um,
You're
I
right.
think the group me helps a lot too. I mean, even though like we are kind of separated, I think that we all kind of have like a little inside joke too. Like, hopefully the instructors don't listen to this, but sometimes, we kind of get in the group meet, and kind of just have our little, behind the scenes kind of stuff that we do. And I thought that was really cool because I mean, there was this one time we were, making little jokes, getting through stuff. With each other. So I mean, it's hilarious the entire time, but I don't know. I kind of feel like that was like the best time, and we wouldn't have had that had we been in class, actually in an auditorium. So I thought that was kind of interesting how we do have that little aspect that we would have gotten in the in-person. But yeah, definitely. I mean, if I run into Sergeant Piker, I know I'm going to be like, oh my God, Piker, you know what I mean? Even though we haven't met so far, but I think that I can't wait till I do run into him. And when I do, I'm going to be like, hey, how's it going? All that good stuff. But but yeah, I mean, I haven't really reached out to much people because, after we have families and stuff like that. But I mean, definitely, I would like to run into him. And if I do, and if I need anything, I know I can hook him up or look him up on the global though.
Absolutely. That networking aspect of it. What are you going to say there, Sergeant Randall?
Well, you pretty much said what I was about to say, but it also allows us to like build a relationship, so after class, you exchange numbers, get your email, maybe, Facebook, whatever, to just stay in touch with each other. Like you said, the network, if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out, so.
The group me has been it's been pretty nice. That is one thing there are a lot of inside jokes that we have going on in the group me, and I don't think that would be possible if we were in actual class, like sitting next to each other, because you can communicate some things that way too. And we've gotten a chance to get to know each other a little bit by some of the things we put on there. One thing I appreciate about this class a lot is that everybody is so willing to share their experiences with their families. And I think at this point in our careers, most people, whether it's their immediate family or people they're close to or their friends or whatnot, they have that type of social circle that surrounds them. And people have been very willing to, share that with each other. And it's kind of hard not to when you're on camera and then your little one runs in the picture and they're like, look at me. So with that being said, how have you all been managing that? Because I've been fortunate. I think I had my son over here during one of the commandant's hours, but I had put him down for a nap, so it wasn't a problem. He ran on my screen for like 2 seconds, and then I was like, yeah, gets from out of my sight. Like, get out of here, little man. But how have you all been handling it? Everybody hasn't had that luxury, right? He's been with his mom during the week, so I've been able to do it basically unencumbered. But what about you all? What are some of the things y'all have done to deal with whether it's family life or just being at home?
Well, same for me. My daughter will go to her dad's house for some days, and then she'll come back. I tend to her most likely during our breaks. I make sure, she has her food, something to drink, her tablet, keep her occupied so that she doesn't distract me. And I don't know if you caught her a couple of times, but she, will come behind me and look at the camera, or she'll say, "Can I talk? Can I say hi?" or something like that. I'm like, oh my God. But I think that that's a wonderful experience as well, because we bring our, like you said, we bring our family involved with what we do for us with the military as well. So it's good to kind of get familiar with not only just your peer, but their children and spouse, all of that. So.
Okay. What else we got? What are any tips of some of the experience with that you guys have dealt with?
Yeah, for me, it's been pretty simple for the most part, because I have a door and I just lock it, and it's not too hard. And I have an amazing wife that stays at home with the kids and tries to keep them at bay. The few times you guys have seen my kids, I've happened to leave the door unlocked, and they were like, "I haven't seen Daddy all day." So they just like waltz in the door and they want to spend time. But for the most part, it's been super easy during the day. It's just a little bit harder after hours. Like my son's mentioned, he basically thinks that I'm sitting up here playing video games all day, not doing anything productive. So that's a little bit hard to hear coming from his mouth, because like I wish you knew what I was doing up here, because I'd rather be downstairs playing with you than up here listening to, even though Sergeant Todd's a good instructor, listening to Sergeant Todd talk. I'd rather be playing with you.
Yeah, he's a good instructor, right? I think we would all have something we would rather be doing. What about you, Sergeant Clooney? Just being at home in general, what type of challenges has that presented for you?
I think it adds a layer of complexity, and you definitely have to be open to some of the challenges that come with it, because especially if you have a significant other, you're going to have some compromises where you're going to be taking these classes. So in my specific scenario, my girlfriend's a teacher, and during the summer times, she has clients that she tutors for. Normally, she would be in the office with me during a work day as I virtually work from home, and it's not really an issue. She'll be able to instruct the kids and get feedback from them as well. And then she doesn't even have to have headphones. I just block it out with Bose, so I'm good to go. But with this scenario, with being in a virtual environment, it's a lot of feedback driven for 8 hours as opposed to like a 1 hour tutoring session. So we had to talk like about a week or so beforehand about what it might turn into, and she was very understanding, and she has since relocated into another part of the house. But that's definitely something that needs to come up because it can be some growing pains if it's not brought up initially, especially because you're looking at taking this course for over 4 weeks, at least 20 days. So that's something that definitely needs to add additional planning for. That would be my recommendation. But so far, it's been good. No issues. Other than the dog occasionally running in from time to time, wanting to have Zoomies because mommy's on the computer and daddy hasn't looked up for the last 8 hours or so. Just like, I need attention now.
That's how it be. Those kids and pets. All right, Sergeant Perthel, you're not going to escape this one. You're not going to escape this question. I see you down there trying to be quiet now. What's going on? What's going on with the kids situation?
Oh yeah, both me and my husband are both mill to mill. So when he found out I had NCOA right the day of the CDC and the youth center on base closed, so everybody's at home. So because of that, I have a 3-year-old. I mean, with my 10-year-old, easy, fine to do with. And that was for day one. I just had my 10-year-old. But when we had our 3-year-old home, my husband had to stay home. So what he would do was we had to work it out to where he wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning, goes to work. He doesn't really start until 7, but he went to work for 3 hours, came home. So he's home by 9 so that I can start. My kid would not let me be on this she'd be all over me. And you guys do see her from time to time. Mom is always number one. So whenever your kid comes, I can't shoot my kid. She'll sit here with me. But she's pretty understanding, though. I was actually kind of surprised in how she would kind of just go back to where my husband was. But yeah, my husband would come back, put her to sleep late, and then when he would put her down for the nap, then he would go back to work, and then she would get up by the time we were out of class. So it was just really working together. We're used to having to juggle both of us being active duty, both of us both being tech sergeants. He went to NCOA. I stepped in and helped him out when he needed to. So, it was just, like Sergeant Clooney was saying, just making sure that you guys can handle it, making sure that his leadership was on board, because NCOA, honestly, from day to day, I have to go, so he's going to have to step in. They're going to have to understand. So luckily, I think he worked all that out. But it definitely took us kind of trying to figure it out. And with Corona, both places being closed, what can we do? So.
Yeah, not really much. And I think the key takeaway from listening to all of you is that have some sort of plan. Like, if you go into this thing trying to wing it, like, okay, my kids are going to be here or whatever, it's just online. So you definitely have to take it seriously, because there are times where we have assignments, we're working in groups, we're doing things, and we have to be in front of the camera. Like when I did basic instructor course virtually, there were times we'd show up for maybe 2 hours in the morning, and then they say, okay, your assignments are due later on at this time. And it's like, cool, I get off the Zoom session, or we're using Blackboard. Let's not talk about that train wreck. But I get off of Blackboard, right? And then I would do my assignments, and then sometimes I'd have to get back on Blackboard. Sometimes I wouldn't. But with this, it's pretty much hey, you're here in the morning, and then you're here later on through. Hold on 1 second. So yeah, you definitely want to have some sort of plan, because you're going to be on camera most of the time. It's not one of those things. Now, what's awkward, like, try explaining to your co-parent who is non-military that you need them to keep your child for a certain amount of time because you have to sit in front of a camera all day long. Like, that was a conversation that required a lot of explanation. Like, hey, I'm not trying to get out of my time with my child. Like, if you all know me, y'all know that ain't my get down anyways.
Yeah,
that's how it was going to be for me at first. Because when we first planned it out, I said, well, it's going to be 5 days a week. You may need to keep our daughter until the weekend. And they were like, what? Yeah. So she's not going to see you for like
they're
5
wondering
days?
why you're home. If you're home, why don't you just keep them? There's no way you can, especially when your kids are under a certain age. Like, 4, maybe 5, but anything under that, if mom's home, mom is here, mom, I need this.
It's impossible.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
With anything.
But we switched it up, so he gives her like, 3 days or something, and she'll come back with me, and we try to keep it even.
Yeah, I mean, that's and that's good. And that goes back into that planning piece, right? Make sure you communicate well with either your significant other, whether it's over kids or just quality time. Like Sergeant Clooney was saying, like, everybody's not going to have kids that does this course, but then they may have a significant other, and it's just like, or maybe you've got other things going on, and you have to explain to someone that, like, this is like me being in a real class, just sitting at my desk. So let's talk about internet issues, because that has been a fun one. Pay your bill.
Freezing up, logging you out, power outage.
Don't use Comcast. Switch to AT&T or whatever you have, whatever's available. Don't use Comcast. I have
AT&T, and we had that 3-day tropical storms. It was cutting in and out, and And then there's times when I got kicked out, and then when you get back in, I'm so lost, and everybody's on break now, and I'm, lost. Hey, can you guys help me? Well, what'd you miss? And I didn't even think anybody knew it was gone.
I think the worst thing is when you get kicked out and everyone's in breakout rooms and your instructor's your instructor's nowhere to be found, and you're like,
that's what happened
let
to
me
me.
back in.
That happened, and I was like, I think they had like to come over and they fixed the power, and it went out for like a couple of minutes and then came back on. And so I come back in, and everyone is out in the activity, doing the group stuff. And I'm like, okay, messaging the instructor, hey, and it took him a while to come back, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I was doing something, I didn't know you was here. So yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I had one moment we were in the breakout rooms, and one of the guys got kicked out. I actually logged in to Zoom on my phone and on my computer. That way we could still communicate with each other, because the instructor was nowhere to be found for like 30 minutes.
He was. We're just gonna say he was probably on a break, either, or he was doing something official, right? Not quite
something official.
He's never been going that long. It just
not 30 minutes. That was
like 30 minutes.
Over-exaggerating.
It feels don't exaggerate. We're not throwing starts out of
it felt like 30 minutes, but it wasn't 30.
Like
He started letting it know too. Hey, if he goes to lunch, we're still in groups or breakout groups. Hey, I'll be back. I'm going to lunch. I'll be back.
It's a lot like sitting at a traffic signal. You think you've been there for like 5 minutes. It's only been like a minute 30.
It's only been like
when you get kicked out of a breakout room, it is very lonely.
It is. You feel like you're on an island.
Yeah.
So I think.
Speaking of which, my favorite. Or go ahead.
No, what was you saying? Your favorite what?
My favorite is getting sent to the breakout rooms. Okay, you have 15 minutes. We finally get into the rhythm and groove of doing things. We're talking, and then we notice, we've only answered 3 questions out of the 15 that we need to. Oh, Thanos is snapping his fingers.
Yeah, Thanos is snapping his fingers.
Back. You get everything
Bring him back.
So we were
the countdown, and then it's all like, and then you're you're okay, we're leaving in 5, 4, and then it's like. And you're in the middle of a sentence, and it's almost like the end game when people start like someone mentioned, like an end game when people start
disappearing. That was like the first week. Like we were doing a group activity, and they're giving us like 30 minutes to do something that I felt like probably should have taken more like 40, 45 minutes. So you got to work quick when you're in these breakout rooms, right? Like you cannot lollygag and start talking about random stuff. So like. He basically just brings us back to the main group, and he's like, all right, guys. And I'm like, yo, sorry, Todd. I was like, you ever seen Avengers? You ever seen that part when he snaps his finger and people start disappearing? Like, that's what it feels like when you got ideas flowing back and forth. You type stuff out. You're like, yeah, this is good. And you're all like, yeah, we're doing a good job and everything. And then he's just like, oh, no, it's time to come back. Like, and it's just like, that was
like everybody one at a time leaving. You're
everybody
like,
one at a time. And it's like we're going back to the main room. So I think a good piece of advice for people is, that aside, besides the fact that make sure you're working diligently and intentionally in these breakout rooms in your groups, because you're not going to have all day. The other thing is get familiar with Zoom. Like I feel like at this point in time. Most people should be somewhat familiar with it because, I mean, let's keep it real. Zoom's behind Corona, right? Like they made Corona happen. So, and then when Corona happened, I had never even heard of Zoom until March.
Mm-hmm.
Like
big tech conspiracy.
Skype, nah, not Skype. Google, nah. All the other stuff that we use, nope. FaceTime's got Facebook's got rooms. Everybody's got stuff. It's like, no, here comes, and you're like,
that Dr. Fauci's got like a majority shareholder in Zoom or something like that.
So like, if someone told me back in February, like, hey, this is something to invest in, I'm like, yeah, right. But if you invested in this thing, who knows how long ago, you probably would have made a pretty chunk of change because everybody's. And so what you don't want to do is show up on the first day with no idea how to use it. And when it comes to
I
internet
know.
outages, yeah. Yo,
Sorry. Well, no
we
one's
can get
told us.
we can get into that discussion later, but Zoom is not very intuitive.
it's not
to do that.
intuitive. It's not the best. I think having it on your phone as a backup for if you have internet issues,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good start. The first time my internet went out on me was like the first presentation we had to do. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like the timing on that was just crazy.
Yeah, having
Like,
it down.
not happening today.
You wanted that 100?
Nope.
Nah.
The technology aspect has been all over the place, even just to sign up for the course. I mean, the SharePoint wasn't working. So, you're probably not the only one struggling. So the best thing to do is communicate, reach out to the schoolhouse, like, hey, I can't get on here to actually register. And they sent the stuff and then ran through a test run of Zoom. But everybody's struggling with this. So people should feel like they're not the only one. Just be sure to communicate that and ask for help. Like that's a great sign of leadership and one of the things they teach at NCOA. And you got to get through this course somehow. And you need Zoom and you need Canvas too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was another thing too. I didn't know much about Canvas at all. Everything for me had been Blackboard. So
See, I dealt with Canvas, college. So I'm like, oh, they using that? And I heard of Blackboard too, but yeah, Canvas was the main thing that we use for like assignments and stuff like that.
It's much better.
The only thing I don't like about Canvas or their setup is how some of the assignments are named some of the blocks. So it is really confusing when they're like, hey, go to this piece, and then like, for example, I don't know, bugs, the whole section is bugs, but then there's a bugs subsection. So it's so confusing for me. I can never find handouts. I just wait for Sergeant Clooney to post a link.
Find get a link guide. Get a link guide. Get you know those movies when you're watching spy movies and there's always that guy like on a computer with a headset on and he's typing. And, like he's like, they're on the second floor. I just disabled the security alarm and get somebody in the group to be that because like
on your team,
exactly. He's been posting links like that, and it's like it's so helpful. Because I don't even search half the time. I'm like, Clooney's got the link.
Clooney's gonna have it. Clooney is definitely gonna have it for you.
Yep, I got us covered. And the worst is like, the instructor. Somehow it's either still blocked or it hasn't been posted yet. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going crazy just looking for this randomly, and nobody else can find it either. So I guess we can just wait for them. The layout's a little tricky. It's like, you got to go through like 5 or 6 different things just to find the one item that you're looking for in particular.
Because they're named the same thing. I'm telling you. All the
we'll put some suggestions in the course critique, but I think
I'm lighting that critique up, man.
I think not in a bad way. I think, and I want to kind of touch on something
constructively.
Yes, constructively. And someone kind of said something before, Sergeant Clooney. I want to touch on this. The instructors, the cadre, the staff have all been very accommodating. They've all been very friendly, and they've all been very professional. And that has been much appreciated from everyone. Because I think it's fair to say that we've all had experiences in our careers with instructor, either the core or their leadership or the staff, and it hasn't always been the best interaction or communication. And that is something that I will say that they have done very well throughout this course, is they've communicated well. I missed the initial check-in, not on purpose, because I didn't see the email. Like I had no idea they were sending me an email to my military email because I think I was flying when they sent me the email, and they were very accommodating with doing a second check-in. Not to say I should have missed it in the first place, but again, like, there was no someone giving me a hard time about it. They're, my first shirt checked in with me, hey, make sure this, that, and the other. And I kept it moving, right? So they've been pretty good about that. Critiques on Canvas and all the other stuff aside, that's been very appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into a little bit of the nitty gritty of the core of this. So I got a few things. I got a few questions I want to know. So we'll keep this. We'll hit the low parts first, and then we can end on a good note. What has been, or what would you say has been probably the most difficult aspect of this course, or even the experience of this course that you've been like, that was just difficult, or I wasn't really feeling that, or I wish I could have handled that a little better? What are some of those things that you experienced in the last few weeks?
Maybe time management type. When it comes to having a task to complete, I felt like, oh man, how many days do we got to get this done? Or I just didn't feel like I had enough time to get, my ideas together or come up with something to, have ready the day of, the assignment being due. So.
Absolutely. Time management, that's a big one. Yeah, that again, just comparing it, I can compare it to another ATC online. Well, this is an ATC, but I can compare it to another course. In BIC, we could work ahead, and it was encouraged. Like, you can work way ahead in that course because almost everything was open. Some of the group discussions were closed off, or the open discussions, but you could read ahead. You could answer homework. You could start your presentations ahead. And here they force you to focus on your time management, because you can't necessarily, as me and Sergeant Perthel learned in one of our groups, you can't always work ahead on everything, because they purposely limit that, because time management is something that they want you to have a better mastery of when it comes to this course. So I agree with that, Sergeant Randall.
I don't really. So with that, I get the whole time management piece and all that other stuff. However, we're doing it virtual for a reason, which is because things are shut down. We're here. Our families are usually here. Everybody's kids are here. So that means that we're dealing with more than just this course. Yes, it's in the perfect world. In butterflies, we're being protected in these cocoons from the coronavirus. However, our families are here. It's really difficult you're trying to do what you're supposed to do. NCOs, we will work ahead when we can. Even in college and classes, you're able to do that. So I think that it was added stress to put that on us like that, because of the fact that, yes, you're benefiting by allowing us to go to NCOA. However, don't forget that we still have our families. So the challenges are different. You need to take that into consideration. And, there's a lot of single parents, a lot of single moms, a lot of single dads having to juggle that. There's male-to-male couples. A lot of females are male-to-male. A lot of females who have children. I mean, some of the fathers are lucky enough to have, wives that are just, are staying home. Either they're stay-at-home moms, or they're, not working because of Corona. So they're lucky enough to have that. Or there's some guys that don't even have any children. So everybody has a different struggle, but they need to remember that piece, And then another thing is, I think this course too, because it was just rewritten. And there's some of the things that are only meant to be done in person, and now you're trying to do it in the virtual. Like when we're trying to, work in groups and do certain things that are meant for in person, and then it doesn't really work when you're doing it in the setting. And also staring at a screen for 5 to 7 hours.
Staring at that screen.
Last couple of days, I mean, Sergeant Gibson knows, man, I had a horrible migraine, and it making me feel nauseous. I mean, today I feel better, but I mean, it was pretty rough. Like when we were doing that, our last group thing that we were doing, I felt I was like level 9 trying to get through that, trying to trying to sound great for my group and be there for my group members. But man, I felt, and then we stayed up late because we tried to work ahead, ended up having to start from scratch.
Yeah.
And so we were up till like 1 a.m, at least I was, Central Time. And then I felt like sick to like, oh my gosh, like it was horrible, actually pretty bad. So,
yeah, just to kind of reiterate on that whole time management thing. I think some of it probably the new curriculum. Some of that might be online because when I was talking to people in my shop that have gone to NCOA under the old curriculum, they were like, oh man, we had so much free time. That's the easiest course I've ever been to.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting here going through this NCOA course and I'm like, where was their free time at? I'd like to get some of that.
They purposely, like, yeah, my husband, he went a couple months ago to the one at Keeser, and he was saying that there was that the time wasn't utilized very good. So but theirs were also longer as well, so they had a lot of like dead time that they just threw stuff into that. And now this course is shorter, so I think that they're pumping all that extra time in. So I think that it's better that they shortened it. I think that that's a positive.
That is a positive.
I can tell you that it's been like absolutely draining. Like I probably worked harder in NCOA than I do on a daily basis instructing people every day. I get done at the end of the day and I'm just like, can I just take a nap for like 2 hours? But as soon as I do that, I know I'm not going to sleep through the night.
Oh yeah, you enter into REM if you go for 2 hours. So yeah. And again, like I try to frame things from different perspectives. I just lesson linked, and I didn't even mean to do that. It's because I make
and you use lesson link.
I make connections. That's what I do. I do it on my normal show all the time too. If you watch, I'm always making connections. But just looking at it from a different perspective, right? We're only the second class they've done online, so. Unfortunately, we're going to be a part of that working out the kinks type process. And there's only so much of that I can say, hey, I'm very curious as to if they have had an instructor actually sit through a virtual and do all of the same assignments, which in all honesty, would it be the same impact? No, because they've already done it, but maybe some sort of audit would be an internal audit. But anyway, again, maybe something for the critique, because we're not here to tear the course down. And in all fairness, I don't think there is really much or anything to tear down. I just think that there are some things that, could be improved upon. But again, we're here to give some sort of expectation, right? That's what it is. So time management has definitely been a thing. And going back to what Sergeant Piker says, if you think you're going to walk into this course, log on, roll out of bed 5 minutes before and just hop on Zoom, and then get going. You got nothing coming for you. Like
you're sadly mistaken.
You are mistaken. You have to take this seriously.
And it's not like any of it's hard. It's just very time consuming to do it.
Yeah, it is.
None of it's been super difficult. It's just time consuming to do it and do it correctly.
Exactly. If you have gotten to this point, you should be able to handle it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it's easy, because again, it does take some concentration. It takes some work. There are times when you'll see when you get there that it's like, hey, these are your requirements. This is what you need to do. And then it's like, all right, now to do better than the base, you're like, okay, how do I do better than just the minimum requirements? And it's just like, figure it out.
Just do. You just do.
Just do better. Yeah. You're like, that is
very clear for a reason.
You're like, yeah. And again, just being fair about it, to what they said, Sergeant Player, she did say the first day during the day DOE one, Day of Education one, or whatnot. I specifically remember her telling us that, hey, we aren't going to we are going to be kind of vague about a few things. We want to see how you handle time. We want to see how you go and research things. We want you to look certain things up. And I think overall, it has, for the most part, led to some improvements, at least on the way that I approach doing certain things. But again, it has been a little frustrating, or for some of us, more frustrating than others.
And
I was in the group with Sergeant Perthel, and I understand how she felt, and that helped me learn about other people too, because I was just sitting over here. Oh, it's a little bit earlier over here, and I'm good to go, and I wasn't even being mindful of what she has going on. Like, hey, it's later over there. She's got multiple kids. Like, she's got things that she's got to do too, and that forced me as a person to look at like how I'm doing and how I'm approaching working in a group. It's no longer Gibbs, it's Gibbs and others. And
yeah, and I thought about that toward the end too, like, because I was getting really frustrated.
yeah,
And then I was like, you got to think of it from your perspective too. And, it goes both ways, but and that stopped me from getting, like, oh my God, I'm getting mad, because I was like, oh, he is taking ownership of it. When it's yours, your name is on it. This is what I do to get it, make it 100%. You know what I mean? And he's just trying to make it 100%. And and then, that's your process. And then sometimes it's really hard working in groups because you're like, I don't know. Yeah, she's saying that, but I don't know if that's right. Let me go ahead and triple and double check this. Listen, she saw the video, but I need to see it to make sure what she saw is what I think she saw. So I completely get that too, because, that's everybody has their own stuff, but I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm gonna do it, and everything don't got to be a shiny penny.
It really don't have to.
I'm not saying that you don't do 100% and put everything into it. However, there's like 100% of this.
Yeah.
100% of, like, if you doing
you got to pick and choose. You have to pick and choose.
Yeah, you're putting a kidney in. Yeah, that's going to be 100% of this kidney thing.
Absolutely.
Don't like pasting this paper. It needs to look good, but it ain't got to be 100%. But I'm such a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to teach myself that, because if I don't do that, I would drive myself crazy with everything. So I don't know, that's just where I'm at my trying to calm my anxieties. So
yeah, and being virtual, like, that's one thing where that makes it difficult. It's like the time zone difference, because they're over there like it's about to be midnight, and I'm over here like, okay, well, it's about to be like 10 o'clock. I'll be all right. And if we're all together in one spot, because I'm gonna tell you this now, like, I'm gonna be straight up with y'all. If we were in Mississippi and I looked at my clock and it was midnight, I would have said 2 words. I'm
good night.
Gone, or good night. Yeah, either one. Or I'm gone. Like, because I'm not going.
It was 12:45.
Yeah, it was like when we got off. It was late when we got off, and again, like, I went back and took some of that feedback, and I was like, all right, I gotta pick and choose. And I understand, because we all got different ways of working. Like, when you work one thing specific, give an example, like, you like to make sure everything is formatted as we go along. And me, I'm the opposite. I'm like, get the information on there, and then we'll go back after all the information is, and then we'll format it. And it's like,
I can't function like that.
When you work with someone who doesn't work like that, you're like, oh.
Executors,
I can't.
We can't. It has to look nice, or
That's just like, even
I have to want to look at it. If it looks ugly, it bothers me. I can't look at Calibra.
That's the same thing when you typing. If you got some errors and you typing, you can't just keep typing.
Oh, that's what I do.
There.
That's what I do. Everybody who's working in the group with me knows that when I start typing, I just type, and I'll go back and do the little right click, fix it later.
See?
And I think that drives people nuts. Like, how do you do that, man?
It's
Yeah.
worse when you're
Why?
typing in front of somebody and you keep making errors, and it's like, oh, don't judge me. I'm just speed typing. It's like, oh crap, it's like nothing but red behind you.
The
It's like-
pressure is
My words per minute are 120, but my adjusted words per minute are 42. It's okay.
I've never heard that before.
Oh my God.
Big golf handicap, but for typing.
I'm sorry.
Adjusted
That's
words
just-
per minute. Like I look like I'm typing a lot, but really, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You gotta go back and fix everything.
I have to
You
fix
got-
all of it. It's not
You
even
got
worth it.
sentence fragments going on.
Oh yeah,
and-
the typing. That being said,
yeah.
you didn't Zoom and learn screen share. Like, and I say learn because
That was me.
it's not hard. Listen, it's not hard, but it is. And shout out to you, Son Randall, because I remember you
Yeah.
stepped up the first group exercise we had. I was like, yo, somebody want to screen share this thing? And you was like, I got it. And you didn't even know what she was doing.
I didn't. Hey, I was willing to do
Thank
it, but
you.
you gotta show me
Thank
how to
you.
do it.
Congratulations to you. I appreciate
I
it.
got better though after that one, didn't I?
You got
good.
better. We all
Yeah.
got better. And I've seen personally, because I think I've been in a group with everyone in here. Like I've worked in a group
Mhm.
with everyone in here. And you see the improvement from the bottom up. And I did talk about that in the feedback with everyone. Like, hey, this is what it
Mhm.
was before, and this is what it is now. And like that is gratifying for me to see, because in life, whether I'm a part of your improvement or not, because that don't matter to me. I don't have that type of mindset. I just like seeing people do well. Like that's who I am. I love seeing people do well and seeing people improve. And it's been great, like seeing that, like the little things that we had when we first came in versus where we are now, just in a short amount of time, from
Mhm.
working together. So that's been pretty nice. But any other spears to throw, or any other little things about some, maybe some of the not so great thing? I think we've all agreed that time management is a big part. Just not being close to someone. Like, I know what it is. The having sidebar conversations, like it's like on the breaks, it's hard to do because you're on an open channel. So in reality, if we're in class next to each other on the breaks, I would literally just like roll over to where you are, sit down, and start talking. You can't do this, right? You get on after a break and you look at a screen and you're like, I wonder if this person's on. Hey, Sergeant Clooney, you there?
Totally not being a creeper, I swear.
Yeah. Hey man, what book you got there on the shelf behind you? Oh, okay, that's nice. And then everybody else shows up, and like and then they start talking again in the conversation, and then the instructor shows up and he's like, oh, I've heard you guys talking about books. And you're like, yeah, we were talking about books. And he's like, that's nice. Time to get started. And you're like, okay. Like he doesn't do that. He most of the time he gets in on the conversation. He's pretty good. But
Yeah.
that's the awkward part, where you want to have a conversation with someone and you really can, but it's weird because the conversation that you have, it's a conversation everybody's having.
Yeah. It feels like you're talking to everyone instead of talking to the individual.
Yeah, because there's been times when I've wanted to ask Sergeant Gibson, hey, about his situation with his son, get personal, but I don't know if he wants to talk about that.
I talk about it in my podcast.
In front of everybody. So there's like I'm a people person and I love getting to know people. I know Sergeant Clooney is thinking about getting married, maybe possibly. We don't know. Soon. So I want to know what's happening
Hopefully
with that.
she's not.
It'll happen soon.
So, but I don't, you don't know what people really want to talk about with everybody being around, and I'm better in small groups.
The small groups make it. Yeah, the small groups definitely make it better, and you kind of just got to test the waters a little bit, kind of see where you can go. I've had a few.
Small.
Yeah, exactly. Don't Don't just show up there like, hey, I heard you talking about your ex-husband. What happened there? And it's like, whoa, you gotta ease into this, right? Like, hey, baby.
So you heard you're divorced.
I've been thinking about going through one myself, but I haven't known how to proceed forward. Like, it's like,
yeah.
Pause. Oh.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's life, right? That's something we do. So, all right, well, a couple negatives or a couple things there. What about some of the good things? What's some of the stuff that you can look forward to, or people, can say, hey, that'll be pretty good.
The length of the class. Because I think typically when you in residence, it's 8 hours, right?
Yeah.
So now it's cut down to 6, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
9 to 3, something. But you got that big
Depends.
lunch break.
Yeah,
9
yeah.
to
4. It's like
9 to 3, 4, or 5.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
But you get to sleep.
I like when Sergeant Todd, when he's done, he's done. He doesn't linger. He doesn't prolong it any more than he has to. He's like, all right, good, no questions, camera off. You know what I mean? So he's gone. And I like the fact that he is brief. And then with lessons too, he wraps it up. All right, let's move on. I hate when people, I like that he cuts it and let's go. But I really enjoy the 9 o'clock showtime. And then, I mean, when you take breaks, you can take a break within your house. I don't remember the last time I had to fill up save on gas.
Yes.
Save on buying to-go food for lunch if you're on a diet or something and you have it downstairs. That's saving money. I go garden on my breaks so I can take care of my crops are flourishing. Because I'm home all the day.
The garden.
So I get that morning water and the lunchtime water. So I get, there's some benefits to it too.
Yeah.
I don't know
comfortable.
Yeah, is anybody not wearing their shoes? Is everybody wearing their shoes?
Very comfortable.
I haven't worn a pair of boots in a few weeks now.
Are you wearing your boots? Or?
I don't wear boots on my carpet. I talked about that one.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not wearing boots on my carpet. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You ain't seeing my shoes. It don't matter.
Yeah, it's not happening. Y'all want to start these boots inspections, then we
I hope not. They're like, okay, step back from the camera. Let me see.
Step
uniform inspection.
Step back from the cameras.
Yeah.
Point the camera
Thing
down.
is, I'm not even wearing socks.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect you to.
And please don't accidentally act like you have some malfunction going on with your camera.
Oh no, Comcast has outages all the time.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting that they had us, because again, for Bic, we were in civilian clothes, just appropriate, right? Don't show up with a tank top on or whatever. But we were just in regular clothes. I mean, there were some days where people showed up with hoodies on, right? And then they're like, yeah, you're going to be in uniform. I'm like, okay, I can understand being in a uniform thing. The blues for graduation thing,
yes,
that's the thing that I'm a little that might.
Normal NCOA, they don't wear blues, period.
Yeah.
That's what I was like.
Really?
They got rid of that.
My husband went through it a couple months ago.
Yeah.
The one in March, you don't wear blues.
Yeah. I guess they figured.
When did they change that though? Because I remember. Oh, that was last class.
Mm-hmm.
The virtual.
Okay, so I was about to say it had to be recent.
Yeah, and I think
orders to attend and even include it. It's just bring a pair of OCPs and ABUs and PT gear possibly.
Yep.
Oh wow.
So I guess they're taking advantage of, and again, I'm not going to pretend to know why. My thought process is maybe they're taking advantage of the fact that we are in place, so you don't have to worry about packing extra stuff on the plane. You don't have to worry about if your uniform, something happens while you're down there trying to get it straight. You can literally, you got 4 weeks or whatever, 3 weeks, however long, to get your uniform straight because you're at home. So there's no excuse. You don't have to wear it. And then when it's time to pull it out, all you got to do is pull it out for the graduation. So I think that was probably the mindset behind that. But again, I don't know, right? I'm not going to pretend to know. Am I going to put that in the course critique? Like, hey, why are we wearing blues on camera? Possibly. I don't know. We're going to see how it goes. We haven't graduated yet. So we'll see how it goes and go from there. So
anybody had to sew on their rank
Yes, I
I've been
absolutely
there.
Raise your
I-
hand if you
I
had to
just-
do that.
because
should have
I
done
am
that when you sewed on.
I am a career enlisted aviator. I have not worn. Okay, so I think I wore my blues for a change of command like 2 years ago. But prior to that, I wore it one more time for something called ATA, Airlift Tanker Association conference.
Mhm.
And then prior to that, I hadn't worn it probably another few years. So I can count on my hand the number of times I put on blues in the last 7 years since I became a flyer. Like
Me and
3
Sergeant
times.
Piker, yeah. I mean, as an NTL, we get a little extra pay for that. But before I even came here, I made sure all my stuff was good to go because I knew I would be inspecting.
Yeah.
Because we wear blues, we inspect, we do open ranks, all that stuff. So before I got here, I just took care of all that. But yeah, I completely understand that.
And I mean, technically speaking, your blues should be ready to go at all times, right? Because you never know when you might have to put them on. So with that being said, I think another thing that can be said about that is a lot of stuff out here in California really didn't start opening back up till recently. Because by the time I sewn on versus when it was time for me to be like, oh, I need to get this taken care of, that's when like the world went up in flames and no one was doing anything. So I definitely was supposed to go to NCOA beforehand. So always something that was going to get done. And my biggest advice, or another piece of advice, is just take care of it. Sooner the better. So you're not worrying about it, and you're not trying to put all the ribbons. Well, I got a magnetic ribbon, so I ain't too worried about that. But put all that stuff on. You got to have it lined up and measured, and yeah, it's definitely it's a process. It is a process.
Yeah.
So what other good things can you say was good from this course that you pulled out?
The kind of tech or echo what Sergeant Randall was talking about, the time management. There's so much time saved from being able to do this all online on a computer, because more than likely, if we had even attended this in person, we would have been relying a lot on computers to be able to submit some of these assignments and upload documents, or even go through, like if you're preparing certain presentations, then you would have had to use a computer in the first place. So to be able to like, oh, just let me get that to you, instead of like waiting, an hour or even after class to be able to send that particular thing to a person, you can just literally drop it in the chat or just email it to them directly, and you're good to go. So I think in that aspect, it made it a lot clearer to the level of interaction with each other, to be able to just share a link to like, oh, I found where we need to go for the assignment. Like it was pretty cut and dry for that.
Access
that's
information.
the part I liked. Yeah. Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. What about we mentioned it earlier, some of the inside jokes that we have, like that camaraderie that we have. Some of what's some of the things we got? So we talked about the Thanos thing earlier. We've got the rabbit flute thing going on. We've got Prestige Worldwide. that's been a thing.
Yeah.
What else? The sergeant that was going to take over my podcast one day. So we all know.
Oh my God! What? Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, we're not going to say.
We're not going to get that.
That
southern accent out.
Yeah, that was funny.
The southern accent.
Southern accent. Yeah.
Oh, from who was doing that? Hers was doing that. You talking?
That was hers.
That was pretty funny. That was pretty. The southern accent.
You know what? After he did that, I start like hearing it in his voice afterwards. I'm like, oh my God. So you do talk like that, really, right?
He did sound like a
shady. He's just been hilarious the whole time. He
sounded like a shady Texas lawyer, like straight up. Like he did sound like, I was like, I would never trust this guy.
No.
Johnny Knoxville.
That was the best. The best.
Sound like one of them Alabama politicians or something.
Oh, absolutely. I thought. I still can't get over how Sergeant Clooney literally sounded like a Verizon representative
I
or
told you.
internet representative.
Well, we didn't say Verizon. We said the State Farm guy.
Whoever it was, it sounded so like whoever played the
Yes.
music.
You
I
just-
died when y'all played the whole music.
Oh yeah, the phone.
The
The
phone.
phone music, wherever y'all found that from,
That
was
was
genius.
awesome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then-
Old Cisco Unity.
He was actually
With some
reading off.
vaporwave waiting music.
He was actually reading off a script the entire time.
it's a script, but he executed it perfectly. You know what I'm
Perfectly,
saying? Like
yeah.
it sounded just like someone who would, because that's been my interaction so much. And like I thought it was hilarious when he was like, well, are you sure we can't get your internet access out there? Dude, I'm in Afghanistan. Like what are you gonna do? You gonna put up a tower next to a farmer? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like whoa.
He's like, no,
What are you supposed to
I
do?
mean, maybe.
that
you
would
can try.
some of the scenarios are pretty nice.
Mhm.
I want to name it specifically. I'm not going to name it specifically. Yeah, Pacifically. Yeah, like the time I'm on. But
Yeah.
Pacifically. But some of the scenarios are actually pretty enjoyable, and you get to see that like funny side of
Mhm.
some of your classmates.
Yeah, they definitely leave open a lot of creativity in some of the scenarios that
definitely.
let you have as much fun as you can with something you're being forced to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I definitely needed it one of those days, because last week, Tuesday and Wednesday weren't like the greatest for me because of some other
Mhm.
stuff that was going on. And I needed those laughs. Like it definitely helps get through the class, and it just
Mhm.
helps. Laughter is good for the soul.
Oh
And
yeah.
the fact that they leave it open for us to be able to have some creativity there, I love that about this course. Like that is really important to me. So finishing this thing up, wrapping it up, um, what is one thing going around the room? We'll start with Sergeant Pikert, same order as earlier, Sergeant Randall next, Sergeant Clooney, and so on. Just give one good thing, one solid thing, something that you've learned from this course, either about yourself or from the course, or how has this made you a better leader?
Ooh, hitting us with a tough question right there. So for me personally, one thing that I've gotten from this course is the biggest thing was the change in perspective for a distance learning course. As somebody who's been teaching a distance learning course, being able to actually be a student and see it from that perspective, the kinds of difficulties you have as a student that you don't see as an instructor. I think that was the biggest takeaway for this course for me, because I didn't understand, like, well, why is that an issue for you? Like, just do the thing that I asked you to do. But coming from the student perspective now, I can be like, oh, that's because even though I explained it to you,
Mm,
you aren't necessarily putting it together because you're not seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. Not like in a classroom where I have a projector up and you can see exactly what I'm seeing, and I can use my finger to point at the thing that I want you to look at. It's a little bit more difficult in the virtual environment to see that, and it was eye-opening, and gives me a little bit to bring back when I start teaching again once we're done with this course.
that's awesome, man. What you got, Sergeant Randall?
So what I've learned about myself is that I do have the ability to actually engage more depending on the topic.
You do.
I can be reserved, like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and just see what you guys got to say and, try to think of something. And if it's important, then I'll say, what I need to say. But I've learned to try to be more open, whether if it's, right or wrong, just throwing things out there and giving my perspective of the reserve side, because I know a lot of folks are more active duty in this atmosphere than it is reserved. So just trying to be able to like throw out things on our end to be able to tie in, what we do as well. So, yeah.
All right. That's awesome. And yeah, you said some things I agree with. You absolutely do have that ability. And it's been good learning about some of those reserved
Mhm.
things. All right, Sergeant Clooney.
I think for me personally, it's being able to put a label to what my role is when it comes to projects and just in groups in general, just serving as a refiner. It has really helped me put a better uh, understanding on my role as a tech sergeant and within the various organizations I'm part of, and not stress so much over the small stuff. I tend to be a bit of a perfectionist sometimes when it comes to stuff, but at the end of the day, the mission or the project or whatnot, it needs to be executed and has to get on to that phase. So to be able to, instead of trying to fit everything into a 10, 15 minute presentation or activity, trying to hit every single point, focusing on what needs to be said and what the pieces fall where they may, not in a bad way, definitely, put in the work and put in, good ideas and whatnot, but be able to refine it to the point to where it is easy for folks to understand. Coming from the comm background, things can get a bit tricky and complex really fast, but to be able to boil down to a good level of understanding for not only myself, but for other people, that to me has stuck out from being part of this course. And I hope I didn't take too long with that answer, but
No, it's all right. That's all very relevant, and it's like I said, this answer is intrinsic to you, right? Like I can't tell you how to answer that. Someone might be like, I didn't learn anything, and that's on them. That's not going to be all of our experience. So nice. And finally, for you, Sergeant Perthal, I'm sorry, Sergeant Perthel.
See, you got it
that's
right.
that was another kind of answer. Why I said that. The way I
But
said.
that's one thing that you learned how to pronounce my last name.
Oh yeah.
It's okay. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
interesting because Sergeant Gibson says my last name different every time, so I never know. So I'm always like, okay, how we gonna pronounce this?
I just want to
But
call you Wanda. I just really want to call you
no,
Wanda.
it's perfectly fine. You never get to hear your first name, and so that's my good friends call me by my first name. So there we go. Yeah, I learned the importance of trust. Really, a lot of the lessons, like some of the lessons, like that last lesson, I don't really want to speak specifics, but I was like, yeah, we're never going to use that. It was such a long process. It's interesting to because my husband, he's majoring or mastering in leadership.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting I don't know, I thought it was interesting, but just learning these concepts are things that he's learning, so it was interesting to break it down. But really the importance of trust, really, and how you can be part of a contributing factor to having a bad work center, because everybody, oh, my work center is toxic, but what is your role in that? So that was something that was pretty insightful that we kind of brought to my attention, like, hey, if I'm in that or previous ones that I've been in, how did I participate in that, and what is my role in fixing it, and to make it better for not only myself but others, you know what I mean? And that's really important. And then just like finding steps and ways to make a work environment non-toxic. A lot of people talk about toxic work environments, and what can we do to fix them. So really for me, I just want to, like, going forward and with my position, because we're kind of like in the middle as tech sergeants. So what can I do to make my work centers here on out for the rest of my career, make them non-toxic? And what can I do if I know it's that way? What am I doing to fix it? Because it's easy to sit up there and say, yeah, my work center is toxic, but do nothing about it. So I just feel like it's going to take trust and really courage to, like, say, okay. And it is kind of frustrating sometimes if you're the only one that wants to do something about it, or you're telling someone about it and they're not doing anything. So, but you as a person, you can do something about it. So don't just be so quick to say your work center is toxic and not do anything. So
Absolutely.
That's one of the things that I want to take away from this, just finding ways to make make someone else's work center better so they want to come to work and someone's not feeling anxiety or just like their stomach hurts because I have to get up and go to work. It shouldn't be like that.
No, it shouldn't be. That's a big thing. And me and you had a conversation, like I said, in one of our groups about trust. And that's something that I took with me, and I was like, yo, that's going to be one of the biggest lessons I learned. Learning how to allow people, especially good people, to actually perform and execute the way that they are going to be, and building up trust. Now, again, this is something we talked about. It's kind of hard to build up trust over a 3-week span in a virtual environment. That ain't easy to do, especially when you're not working. If you're in the same groups with everybody from every assignment that we do, then yeah, you'll have a well-oiled machine. But we end up working in different groups every single time.
Yes.
However, that just made me look inward, and I did the same thing you did. I said, hey, how have I been contributing to a toxic environment? And it was a tough conversation I had to have with myself, because at the end of the day, I had to look inward and say, you know what? Some of the stuff that we talked about, it's stuff that I've done, and I absolutely should not have done it, or I could have done it better. And, I want people to understand that no matter how seriously you may take a test, a course or something, or it's just NCOA, or it's just this or that, and the other, you can learn something from anything, any person at any time. And so never discount the power of knowledge, or the power of insight, or the power of perspective. Never discount that, because it can ultimately make you better, and make your experience better for yourself, and the experience of others around you that much better. And so, yeah, I definitely learned a lot about myself, about leadership. And, being an aviator, it's a little bit more difficult to apply some of the concepts we have to everything, because, everybody's so job specific, right? As a person, and being well-rounded, and how I want to move forward in the future, whether it is inside or outside of my work center, whether it's Air Force or business, family, or anything, there was definitely a lot that I learned. And I think it really comes down to one big thing for me, and that is, if you trust in your people will trust in you. And that's something that I definitely want to take back and use to be a better person in general. Air Force or not, Sergeant Gibson or not, whatever I'm doing. So that's my takeaway. And with that being said, one last thing before we get on out of here, because it's been a good time, but it's about that time. Any last big pieces or small pieces of advice? I'll go ahead and lead this one off. 2 things. The first week, don't be afraid to just start talking. Y'all going to have to get to know each other. So just go ahead and get it out the way. It's going to be awkward at first, yes, but you'll get over that awkwardness pretty soon. So yeah, just go ahead and start talking, get to know each other, because you're going to be at this thing for a few weeks. And the better you know each other, the better off you'll be. And number 2, as long as this thing is virtual, because I don't know how long this thing is going to be virtual, but as long as this thing is virtual, invest in a pair of these. These are blue light filter glasses. I got like 2 of them on Amazon for like $15. They're cheap. They're not medicated lenses, or they're not, lenses that are used for correction. All they do is filter out blue light. And I don't wear glasses, but I wear these, and these have helped tremendously with headaches, straining, because you start straining your eyes, and then you get headaches, and headaches turn into migraines, and you combine that with being hungry. And then if it gets a little hot, and then if somebody's trying to correct all your work all the time, like, you get all that stuff combined, and then like you're just like, I hate you, I hate life, I hate this, I hate everyone. And before you know it, you're giving a Denzel Washington monologue talking about putting cases on everyone.
Yeah. That's funny.
So get a pair of blue light filters.
Talk about my last Thursday.
You're fine. You're everything you're saying was very valid. So that's in general for anyone, because I had some days too. I had some days too where we all had days. That is my
Yeah.
piece of advice, other than what we've talked about before. Anybody else got anything else?
Yeah, I got something. I think the biggest thing is don't be afraid to break the ice as far as jokes go. Kind of let, as long as it's appropriate, kind of let something loose. It gets people more relaxed, more comfortable. It kind of gets people talking more, and gets people connecting with each other a lot more. I noticed that, and just like the first couple days, maybe even the entire first week, we kind of just talked when we had to, and didn't really talk a lot when we didn't have to. And once we started getting in some jokes and whatnot, we started feeling comfortable, and everybody was talking to each other more. We were cracking jokes, making our inside jokes. It made it feel. Made us feel more connected and made it feel like I was actually getting to know you guys.
Yeah,
I
you're absolutely
agree.
right. Yeah, you had a few funny dad jokes. I think you told. There's a couple of them. What you got, Siren?
No, I said I agree.
Oh no, you got any
Definitely.
parting shots, any advice, anything?
Just participating, outside of class. I know, like with the what is that group, the group me thing? Just like with the exercising, saying,
Yeah.
hey, I completed this, and it's like, oh, you did that, well, I did,
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah, just connecting outside of class would be good as well.
Yeah, Clooney's been putting the team on his back with the miles on that bike.
It's funny, the biker ride on the day that challenge went out. It's like, okay, I'm gonna put some work in. Let's do this.
Yeah,
Did you even? We could talk when you finish recording this.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
What you got? What you got for the people?
So
really, is it Piker?
It don't matter. Whoever wants to go.
I
It's
was
either
gonna say, like Sergeant Piker said earlier, download Zoom. I think I downloaded it the morning of. I don't know why I waited till the morning. I thought it would just magically show up, and then like my Mac was like, "Hey, you need to download." And I was like, "Why didn't I do this before?" So yeah, the 30 minutes I was like trying to download it, but it did it really quick. And get yourself a reliable computer, like I don't know, like an Apple product.
Yeah, no Chromebooks.
No Chromebooks.
No Chromebooks.
Zoom
Please, no
laptops if you
Zoom
help it.
is not good with Chromebooks. Please do not use a Chromebook. And somebody's gonna listen to it and be like, "Dang, I just bought a Chromebook."
Yeah.
Good thing they're only like $200.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't use a Chromebook. What you got, Sergeant Clooney?
I'd say remember Prestige Worldwide for all of your automotive needs. But in all seriousness, we're talking about those inside jokes, building up connections, camaraderie. But that virtual NCOA is still at its essence NCOA, even though you're doing it from a home environment. So I know one of the biggest things for me is to make sure your leadership and immediate supervision know what you're getting into. That way you're not getting phone calls or they expect you to put out any fires. Be sure you delegate appropriately and make sure that like any projects you're a part of can be turned over, because you're essentially going to be out of pocket for those 4 weeks. So just don't go into with the mindset that you're going to be able to be Superman, Superwoman, and do all things at once. I mean, even with some of the folks in here, like they're stationed at the same base as the school. You want to go through ALS and be doing the job that you're part of, just like normal. So it's definitely something to keep in mind, that this is your place of where you're going to be reporting to, and make it your focus. Like, don't go in here saying, oh, it's going to be all online, it's going to be super easy. No, like all the different discussions, different assignments, presentations you're going to be a part of, they are going to require your individual attention. And if you don't put the work in, it's probably going to show.
It will show.
So just be mindful of that. That's all I've got.
All right.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was gonna say that applies to everyone unless you're a recruiter. Just like
Special
case. With signing documents.
That was a special case.
Darn it.
Hey.
Or becoming a first sergeant.
yeah, or that too. But for the most part, no, that definitely applies. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, all my people, thank you so much for listening to this special edition of Radio with Gibbs, or as we would say, Radio with Tech Sergeant Gibbs, or Tech Sergeant Gibson, whatever you want to call me. And we just did this to help out the people coming behind us doing NCOA. I don't know how long they're going to be doing virtual. Maybe they'll be doing this for another class, maybe 2 more classes. But even if you aren't virtual, even if you are doing this in resident, some of these things we talked about, you can still apply even in person. I think the biggest difference will be that you'll know how tall someone is when you're next to them. I have no idea how tall anyone is in this class.
Sergeant Clooney. Sergeant Clooney is tall. I know he is.
I cannot, definitely. I can't tell how tall anyone is. I feel like Hurst and Fantasy are pretty tall, like or pretty like bigger guys. But who knows?
Is Turku short? He looks short.
So he's a little shorter than me, yeah. But I'm not that short. I'm like 6
tall are you?
Tall on, yeah. So I'm like right there.
Like I'm on the 6 foot tall.
I am. I'm right there too. Like I'm.
Oh,
big.
I never.
Like when I look at like tall, we look at like if I could touch 6 feet tall, I would barely have my finger on it, just barely. Like I'm right there. When I get older, I'll probably be a little below it because you get a little bit short. That's what sounds the point. We're not talking about my height here. We're talking about this. But anyways, thank you all for listening in. We hope that this was helpful. We hope that you got something from this. We hope that you can take this and use it for the betterment of yourself and maybe even those around. Share this. It'll be on the YouTube. It'll be in a few places. And also tune in to my normal show, my other episodes of Radio with Gibbs. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all of those places. I'm here giving perspective, helping the people out. And with that being said, even though this is a special edition, I'll still say my closing line. I love to live life, and live I shall. Y'all be good. Y'all be great, because y'all some great people. And thanks for tuning in to this special edition of Radio with Gibbs.